Hi everyone, thank you for joining me again here on my second YouTube video. If you missed my last video, it was about how to get into nursing school and tips for pre-nursing students so that you are able to get into nursing school on your first try. So be sure and check out my last video if you missed it. Today my video is going to cover how I study efficiently and effectively, because I think that this is a skill a lot of people lack in. People do not really understand what method is best to study, and they struggle with that, and then they get overwhelmed and stressed. And I just want to share some of the things that I have been implementing into my life recently, well, over the course of me being in graduate school, and I have seen a huge difference in my grades. I definitely didn't have these study habits when I was in high school, even in undergrad through nursing school, and I honestly wish I had, because I probably would have had much higher grades than I did have while I was in even nursing school. So I really want to share those tips with you guys because I think that it can really help you and improve your own life and organize your studying much better. So be sure to watch the rest of this video and stay tuned for all the tips that I have for you. First of all, before I dive in, I want you to reflect. What types of ways do you learn best? What are the ways that you think that you really learn the material super well? For example, are you a visual learner? Do you need to have pictures, drawings? Are you somebody that needs to listen to it, hear someone talking about it? Or are you someone that needs a combination of both, like watching videos of someone drawing out pictures and concept maps, but also listening to them at the same time talking about it? You really want to know your own study methods, or you really want to reflect on what ways you learn best, because everyone learns differently and you want to definitely implement those while you are studying. How I learn best is to actually talk the information out, because I like to talk it out. I mean, I literally have to conversate with myself so that I can actually understand the material better. So definitely, reflect on how you learn best, because everyone does it differently. But for me, just talking it out loud is the best way that I will learn information. So for my first tip, I want to talk a little bit about my study plan. And this is my biggest thing that I implement into my life that really helps me organize my studying better. So when I first get my course schedule for the semester, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and write down all of my upcoming exam dates into the planner. That way I know when my exams are going to be. And then for leading up to my first exam, what I'll do is every day I'll write out what chapters I'm going to study. So for example, I'm going to write on June 1st, I'm going to study chapter 1. The next day I'm going to study chapter 2. The next day I'm going to study chapter 3. But that doesn't mean that I'm only studying chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. When I move on to studying chapter 2, I'm going to learn chapter 2, but I'm also going to review chapter 1. And so I'm going to continue to do that leading up to my exam. And when I do that, I have actually learned all the material. And when I get to my exam, right before the test, I'm going to feel so confident just reviewing all the information, because I've literally been building on my knowledge and learning all that information every single day. So this is super important that you do that. So that's literally the first thing that I will do, and it really helps me kind of organize my schedule. My second tip, and diving deeper into that study plan, is every day I will make a daily study plan. So when I wake up in the morning, I will write out on my daily planner, study planner sheet that I have a template for. And I will write out okay, between 11 to 2 o'clock, I'm going to set out 4 hours and I'm going to study for all the chapters that I need to study today. So I'm going to learn new chapters, I'm going to review previous content, and if you really want to have good grades, you don't need to be studying 10 hours a day. You need to spend a solid 2 to 3 hours learning material, reviewing old content, and be done, because that's the way that you study effectively. Now, obviously, I do account for breaks. I personally, and I get a lot of messages, people ask me about, do you use the Pomodoro method? I don't use the Pomodoro method. It's very, very structured, and I don't like that because I want to take a break when I feel like I'm ready to take a break. Now, if you're someone that's like every 2 minutes you're taking breaks, then maybe the Pomodoro method's a good way to structure that. But typically what I'll do is I'll study like one chapter and then I'll take a break. Usually it takes me like 20 to 30 minutes to get through a chapter, like a PowerPoint. And so after that, I'll take like a 5 to 10 minute break. So in an hour, I'll probably take like 4 little 5-minute breaks. So about 20 minutes of my time is gone in breaks, but it helps me stay refreshed, and I like really know my material because I'm focusing on those 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes studying that chapter. So make sure that you also account for your breaks. I like to study in the afternoon, so I will also account for lunchtime, and I'll take like a 30 to 45 minute lunch. That way I can really focus on eating, and I can kind of have some time to relax, do whatever I want before I get back into studying. So if you like to study in the early morning, account for like a breakfast. If you're studying in the afternoon, lunch. If you do more evening, then maybe account for your dinner time. But don't skip your meals while you're studying, okay? Because you want to still eat, and eating is obviously going to fuel you and give you more energy to study. So make sure that you account for that. My third tip it should be obvious, is to put your phone away. Especially in this day and age, our phone is literally our life. And even for me, like, I know I'm addicted to my phone. I obviously am on my phone a lot, especially in quarantine, and because of my social media pages and things like that, I'm always on my phone. But when I'm studying, I put my phone away, put it on Do Not Disturb, and I completely focus on studying. Now, when I take my little breaks, like even if it's a 3-minute break or a 5-minute break, like, I will go ahead and look at my phone. That way I'm not tempted when I'm studying to go look at my phone again, because, if you are like, oh, I'm not going to look at my phone for 8 hours, you're going to rush through your studying, you're going to be more, just tempted to look at your phone, and you're not going to study effectively. So look at your phone in your little break time, so that way you're responding to messages and, you're getting your daily dose of your phone. But make sure you put your phone away when you're actually studying. And there are actually some apps that you can download, and I think if you like study for a certain amount of time, you like earn money. So definitely research into that. I'll have to look more into it. There's apps that do help you with that and give you some incentive. My fourth tip is to make sure that you review the notes that your professor provides you first, because they are going to emphasize what's most important for you. So like if there's a lecture that you're studying off of and you like take notes in class, study those notes first. Or if they like provide PowerPoints or like a handout, study that first, because of course what they're emphasizing is what's going to be tested. But then read the book after to kind of expand on that knowledge, bring all the knowledge together, help you understand it in different various methods. But don't waste time memorizing the entire chapter and memorizing all the notes, because that's too overwhelming and your teacher doesn't want you to do that. The readings are just a source to help you kind of understand the knowledge a little deeper. So definitely, study the notes that you're provided with first and then refer to the textbook. My next tip is to create cheat sheets. I like to create cheat sheets because they are, cheat sheets are a way to kind of write the big concepts, but not go like in depth with notes. And this way, when you're out and about, you're, at work or whatever, and you need to quickly review stuff, you can just look at the, the big words, the big topics, and you can look at the big words and the big topics, and you can kind of try to see if you actually remember the information, you really know it in and out. And it's a good way to have a study tool on the go. Now, if you don't want to make cheat sheets, I have created a 50-page comprehensive cheat sheet guide for nursing students. If you're struggling to learn topics like adult med surg, maternity nursing, some immunization schedules, and things like that, you can purchase my cheat sheet guide, and I'll put that link in the description box below. That way you're able to use the cheat sheets that I've created to help you study. But I like to make my own cheat sheets for different chapters and topics. That way I have this quick reference study tool that I can refer to when I'm at work or I'm out, and I'm able to quickly review information. My next tip is to talk out the information with somebody. Because if you're able to talk about it or teach it to someone, that means you truly understand the material 100%. If you're not looking at your notes and you're just talking about it. And I often will do this, like I will literally talk it out with like my sister or family member or my significant other, and even though they have no interest in anything that I'm learning or they have nothing to do with what I'm learning, if I'm able to talk about it to somebody and they're like, oh wow, like it seems like you're very knowledgeable in this, then that's when you know that you have literally learned the material and you know it in and out. You know, our professors and our teachers, they know this material in and out, and that's why they're able to talk about it, teach it to students, and that's why it's so important that you are able to do this. And you'll see that doing this, talking it out with somebody and teaching it to your classmates. So if you're like, you know, if you and your classmates want to study together, instead of just, I don't know, instead of just studying at the, you know, a lot of people go to the library and they're like, let's study together, but you're studying individually. Just talk out the information with each other, conversate about it, ask each other questions about it. And the more you're able to have a fluid conversation, educating each other about it, you know that you know this material. Okay, so my next tip is don't waste your time making flashcards or pretty notes at the last second. There's nothing wrong with making flashcards if you study well, like making flashcards or Quizlet flashcards, or, you know, like really pretty notes, even my cheat sheets that I'm talking about. But you don't want to do it like 2 days before your test, because now you're wasting time making it and not spending time actually learning it. So if you need to do that, then do it as you're studying the chapters. Like study the chapter first and then set like an hour after you're done studying. Like for example, if I'm studying from 11 to 2, I'm going to actually study the material, but then from like 3 to 4 o'clock, I'm gonna just work on creating some sort of a study tool. So when I get to the end, when I'm about to take this exam, I have these different study tools to quickly review information, but don't do it at the last second. And I think that this is a very important tip because I've seen way too many people wasting hours at the last second trying to create flashcards, and then they're like, oh, I was up all night making flashcards, and then it's like, did you really learn the material? Because some people will argue that, you know, making flashcards helps them learn the material, but then why don't you implement that into the weeks prior and make those flashcards as you're studying? So then you are still learning the material and you're also creating that study tool. So yes, definitely make sure that you're not wasting your time at the last second making those flashcards. My next tip is to make sure that you plan out the days that you're actually not studying. And it's so important that you have rest and relaxation days in between, because that's what's going to help you have more motivation to study. I get a lot of messages of people saying, how do you have the motivation to study? And it looks like you're studying all the time, and that's not true. I take days where I'm not studying, and that gives me time to relax, focus on other things, and then get the motivation the next day when I'm having to study to like really focus on studying because I've had all this relaxation time. So again, when I get my syllabus and my course schedule and I write out the days that I'm taking my exams, the days that I'm like studying, I will also write in like relaxation days and rest days. Kind of like when you work out and you have a rest day where you're not working out, you also need to rest your mind. Your mind is working constantly, and so you kind of need to give it time to process information that you've been studying. And if you can take a day off in between and still remember the information the next day, that's when you know that you really know that information. Because sometimes we're good at memorizing stuff quickly and it'll temporarily stay in your mind, but if you are actually studying well, then come 2-3 days later, you should still be able to know that information very well. So make sure to schedule those rest and relaxation days in between on your planner. My last tip, and this is something that your parents will probably tell you, but make sure you sleep the night before. I see so many people posting on their stories on social media and they're like, oh my god, I stayed up all night studying, blah blah blah, and it makes it seem, I mean, I feel like people just do it just to kind of show off and act like they've been studying all night. But come on, if you were studying properly, if you really know that information, you would have gotten 12 hours of sleep, probably 10 to 12 hours. I have never in my life stayed up all night, pulled an all-nighter for school. Granted, I hate staying up the whole night, but there's no way that I will be able to stay up all night and do well on a test the next day. So again, if you follow all my tips and you study efficiently and effectively, the day before the test, you're probably only going to study for 2 to 3 hours, and then you're going to go sleep the full night. And you're going to wake up, have breakfast, and you're going to do really well on the test. And I can say this for a fact because I made 100% on an exam this semester, and I'm not trying to show off about it, but there's a reason that I made 100% on an exam, because I followed these methods and I studied really hard every day leading up to my test. I got a good night's sleep. I mean, do you really think that you're going to perform well the next morning when you're taking your test if you've been up all night running on 2 hours of sleep, drinking a Red Bull plus some coffee, going into your test? No, you're not. And some people will say, well, I study better at night. Okay, well then do that the days leading up to the test, but don't do that the night before the test, because your test is not being administered in the middle of the night. It's going to be administered in the morning or afternoon time during the day, and your mind has to be active and it has to be alert during the test. So I think this is like the biggest tip I have out of everything I told you is make sure you sleep the night before, get well rested, and then take your exam. You're definitely going to perform much better running on 8 hours of sleep versus 2 hours of sleep. So these are the methods that I have been using in grad school that have worked really well for me, and I've been able to maintain really good grades and have pretty much a perfect GPA this entire time that I've been in grad school. And I really wish I had done this like growing up in high school and undergrad, but you know, I have so much going on in my life between work, school, clinical, running my own business, running these social media pages, that if I don't follow this, I will fall very behind and I will do really, really bad in school. So if you know you're busy, you need to follow these methods to do well in school and to maintain those really, really high grades. And to also really know your information, because as nurses and healthcare providers, I mean, we need to apply this knowledge in real life to save patients. And so you really want to know your information and not just memorize it for the exam. So again, I'm going to link all these things that I was talking about in the description box below, like my cheat sheet guide. And then if you need more help organizing your studying and things like that, book a custom advising session with me and I will talk you through how you can specifically plan out your own study schedule. And I'll put the link to that booking information in the description box below. If you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel so I can continue to put out more content on YouTube. And if you want to stay more up to date and get more information on a day-to-day basis and resources to help you in your nursing school journey, or if you're a nurse, be sure to follow my Instagram page at Nurse Mayura, because I post a lot of content every day on my stories, on my feed, so that you are able to get more help and advice on a day-to-day basis. So thank you very much for joining me on this video, and I will see you guys on the next one.